What's going on, bottom line viewers? It's Mitch here, live on March 17th. It is a Friday, and it is the final day of the first week of NFL free agency, at least until the weekend. So, this is for sure, potentially, the last day of a lot of moves. Maybe tomorrow, maybe Sunday, we'll have to see how it goes, but typically, it's about 5 to 7 days, and then free agency starts to slow down, and you see a few moves every day, but it doesn't go overboard with a bunch of moves. But even today, we didn't see a ton of moves. We saw a couple moves from a few different teams, and it was very congested. But not a lot to talk about, so this will be a little bit quicker, a little bit faster. So I definitely want you guys to be giving me questions, because I think there's going to be more time here to talk about rumors and potential ads, potential signings, potential trades, all that sort of stuff. So if you have questions, I'll be sure to answer those questions throughout the live stream. Don't forget to spike the like button and subscribe. Also, if you're watching this after the fact, don't hesitate to comment and let me know a question that you may have, or just a general comment about the show, the channel, or a signing. Let me know in the comments section below. Let's say hello to everybody before we get started with some of the signings. What's up, Dougie King? How you doing? He says, our Pats got a good solid weapon in a tight end now. If we can get Judy, it's scary times. I watched the team page and they say big moves are coming, so let's hope it's real. Go Pats. Yeah, we'll see. Thank you for the comment. I don't know if it's going to be Judy, but I do think that another potential weapon or offensive player could be on the way based on a couple reports. We heard that Scott Zolak, the color guy on the radio there in Boston for the New England Patriots, former quarterback, did say that there might be more dominoes to fall. This might have just been the first one of the next day or two coming up. So yeah, I mean, that in my mind seems to say that New England is not done on offense. And honestly, we'll get to those signings later on because I want to hook you Patriots fans to stick around. But we'll talk about where I kind of am at with the Patriots weaponry and their playmakers right now. Zane says, hi, what's up, Zane? Nicholas Gill says, hi, Milani. What's up, Nicholas Gill? How you doing, my Bears fan? Zane says, have the Browns got rid of Watson? No, that is not happening, unfortunately. Dylan says, how do you rate the Eagles' offseason so far? Well, I definitely think you would have to say that they've gotten worse. I don't think you could say they've gotten better. Based on what they've done, I think it's been a tad confusing. You know, trying to re-sign Brandon Graham, Fletcher Cox. I don't love it when teams try to run it back and they don't try to improve. So, I don't hate what they've done. They're going to remain competitive. They still have one of the best teams and rosters in the NFC. But I do think, like specifically, just to point to the secondary, they released Darius Slay and then they re-signed him. They re-signed James Bradbury. Now Chauncey Gardner-Johnson seems like a guy that might actually leave. If that's the case, I'd be very disappointed if I was an Eagles fan. Of course, Javon Hargrave left. TJ Edwards already left. Kaiser White's gone. So you've lost a few pieces on defense. Epps is gone as well. And the ones you've signed have been the old guys. I understand the veterans, the legends of the team, but only for 1 year. So it doesn't really help you long term. So I'm a little confused with what they're doing. I love Howie. I think he's a great GM, but I'm confused with what his strategy is right now. I think they needed to improve their corner position to add a little bit more man-to-man coverage to their defense. I think they were too zone reliant last year against the Chiefs. That showed, and I feel like they didn't do that. So I think there were ways that they could improve their team, and I don't think they've done that. So I am skeptical of it. I'm not going to say it's been a bad offseason so far, but I'm skeptical of their additions, subtractions, and their offseason. So let's get to the first signings. And we are going to begin with the lone quarterback move of today, which was the great Marcus Mariota. Marcus has gone to the Philadelphia Eagles, a new Philadelphia Eagle. We're going to talk about why I actually like that move for the Eagles here right now. So, Marcus Mariota, what was the contract? Let's just check real quick so I get the numbers right. I got so many things on my screen right now. It's actually crazy. Hold on a second. Do I think Watson is better than Mayfield? Yes. Not even close from a talent standpoint. Okay. I've seen a lot of Baker love in my comments, and I don't really get it. I mean, maybe a couple years ago, but the guy has not played well the last couple of years. I don't see it, at least. I don't mind Baker. I like the guy. I just don't think the player has played very well. So, Marcus Mariota replaces Gardner Minshew as the backup quarterback in Philadelphia, signing a one-year deal worth $5 million. It could be up to $8 million with the Philadelphia Eagles. This is a funny signing when you look back, and as Eagles fans, you may say, hey, we almost drafted Marcus Mariota. Chip Kelly was obsessed with the kid back when he was in Oregon, and they almost made that move, that connection. Marcus Mariota, Chip Kelly, it almost happened in Philadelphia, and Eagles fans are probably happy that it didn't happen based on what happened with Marcus Mariota in Tennessee, and now that he is basically a backup quarterback, they're probably happy it never happened. But now you get Marcus Mariota, and you should be happy that you get Marcus Mariota. I like this addition. And for the Philadelphia Eagles, I think it's an upgrade at backup quarterback based on the situation. I think a lot of what playing backup quarterback is in the NFL is finding the right system, the right scheme, and the right fit for your play style. And oftentimes, backup quarterbacks are not the most talented players, right? There's a reason they're backups. So to go to the right system, the right fit, makes it that much more essential. Gardner Minshew has moved on to Indianapolis. He's moved on with Shane Steichen to the Colts. He'll get an opportunity there. I think one for one, player for player, I'd rather have Gardner Minshew than Marcus Mariota on the average. But if you look at what Philadelphia is as an offense, very much run-oriented, run-predicated at the quarterback position. They love to have the six-back offense involvement offensively, which means they love to run the quarterback. Marcus Mariota, that's basically all he did last year for the Atlanta Falcons. And he was a starter last year for a majority of the season for the Atlanta Falcons. As the Atlanta starter, he played in 13 games. He started 13 games. He went 5-8 with a pretty bad Atlanta roster, so I would say that's not half bad. 5-8. 61% completion percentage. He only threw the football, guys, 300 attempts. So he did not throw the ball very much. It was all about Marcus Mariota's ability to run in combination with his ability to throw off of play action, in combination with his ability to be a veteran quarterback, pretty much. On top of that, he threw 2,219 yards, 15 touchdowns to 9 interceptions, and a 88 passer rating. So Marcus Mariota, last season at now what is 29 years old, going on 30, makes a quality backup for a quarterback like Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts is a runner. The offense is predicated on running. Now, Jalen Hurts obviously can throw, but a lot of the stuff that Atlanta did is also going to have carryover with what Philadelphia did. So that's what I'm talking about when it comes to backup quarterbacks. To me, if I'm a general manager, I want a backup quarterback that replicates or can replicate from a skill standpoint my starter. Marcus Mariota can do that better than Gardner Minshew ever could. You don't have to change your offense inherently at its core to remain successful. And Philadelphia's always put a lot into that quarterback position, drafting that quarterback position, paying that quarterback position the backup because of what happened with Nick Foles, especially. So I like this move for the Eagles. I think they've upgraded for their system, their fit, their team. Mariota's a good personality, a good guy, has never had a complaint. Seems like he'll be a great backup for Jalen Hurts, and he will replace Gardner Minshew short term with the Eagles, just in case Jalen Hurts has to miss any time for the Eagles. I think Mariota will come in there and have some success. As a passer, he's not bad. I don't think he's as good as Minshew, but I think in this type of system where you're working off a lot of play action and the run game is such a big part of it, he can remain successful, especially throwing the ball in the middle of the field. So maybe not the deep ball that Hurts has, but the accuracy and placement over the middle of the field in short areas, he can be successful. So Mariota to the Philadelphia Eagles on a 1-year deal. There's the first move that I'm going to discuss, guys. What's up? We got is this a new viewer? We got MA Football Guy. What's up, man? How you doing? Thanks for joining the chat. Jordan, I saw you earlier in the Pats chat. Appreciate you coming in. Whether you're a new viewer or not, or you just got reminded that I exist, I appreciate you joining the chat. Jordan Hunter's in the chat. Thanks, man. He says, hyped about Gesicki. We're going to get to that. Don't you worry. We don't have too many moves, but I'm saving that for the main event just in case I get too long in my explanation and my thoughts. So Patriots fans, be patient. Stick around. We'll get there. I've got to cover the rest of the NFL. I know I love you, but you know we got to talk about the rest of the NFL first. Cover the rest of the fan bases. If you haven't already, make sure you do Gronk spike the like button, though. Greg says, just tuning in, Patriots free agent signings, good, average, poor. We'll get there, Greg. We'll get there. Okay, shout out to everybody that's in the chat right now, though. Appreciate everybody. Let's get to the next signing. I just want to check one real quick on terms of the Pro Football Reference. Because I honestly know nothing about this guy. I don't even know. Oh, maybe he changed his name. Yeah, this is not even worth talking about, in my opinion. He's only started 4 games in his career. I'm not going to talk about that. But just in case anybody out there, Jets fans, Tristan Colin or Colin Castillo signed with the Jets. He's only started 4 games in his career, so I'm not really going to talk about it. But another depth lineman for the Jets. I just find that kind of interesting. They continue to add these depth linemen for the potential out of Aaron Rodgers because they've had a lot of issues with injuries on the offensive line. So Tristan Colin is a Jet. Okay, next move I want to discuss is one with the Browns. We do have some Browns fans in the chat right now. Let me know what you think of this signing. But one that I think is actually a pretty interesting signing is Jordan Akins. Okay, Jordan Akins, the tight end. I actually thought maybe on the Patriots' radar. Let's discuss it. Okay. The Cleveland Browns have added a new weapon for Deshaun Watson and somebody that he has some familiarity with dating back to the Houston days with Deshaun Watson. Jordan Akins, tight end, has signed a 2-year deal worth $5.2 million. As a Patriots fan, I thought that this might be a target for New England as a number 2 tight end after they let go of Jonnu Smith, given that Bill O'Brien, of course, was the Houston Texans head coach. Jordan Akins is somebody that I thought very underrated. I had him as an underrated, under-the-radar signing for a team, as more of a move tight end, somebody that's not too involved as a blocker, but more as a receiver, and has had some pretty actually under-the-radar success. When you look at his statistics, dating back all the way to his rookie season, putting up 225 yards, 17 catches, and then he gets better, 36 catches, 418 yards, 2 touchdowns, then 37 catches, 403 yards, and a touchdown, and his latest season was his best season without Deshaun Watson, but it's a season where he was the primary option at the tight end position. He is now 30 years old, but 15 games, 37 catches, 495 yards, and 5 tutties. So a pretty good year for Jordan Akins. Pretty big guy, 6'4", 243. Definitely stands out, and actually I would say he looks more like he's 6'5", 6'6" when you watch him. But Jordan Akins Pretty good receiver, pretty savvy, a deceptive athlete moving in space. They used him a lot from what I can recall in the screen game. You know, a lot of short passes where he's pretty good after the catch. So I could see him being utilized as sometimes a slot receiver, sometimes, you know, in those 2 tight end formations, maybe a little bit separate to the formation. You know, that kind of just not always asked to block, but you bring him in and he's a complement to David Njoku, who's, I think, one of the best tight ends in football right now. I think had an awesome year last year, got hurt, but he's really developing into something special. This is a nice complement to that, and a guy that at least has some familiarity and chemistry with Deshaun Watson. You want to make Deshaun Watson work. So a way that you can do that, if you're not going to spend big money at wide receiver, big money at tight end, Jordan Akins can be a guy where, it's a depth add, but somebody that every once in a while, Watson already has that rapport. He can feed the football to him. So Jordan Akins to the Cleveland Browns. I like the move. Next up, what do we got? We have Dean Lowry going to the Vikings. What did Nicholas Gill said? He says, cover the Bears. Bro, the Bears did nothing today, unless I missed something. Did they do anything today? I covered the Bears. By the way, shout out to Bears fans. If we got any Bears fans out there, man, Bears fans have been lighting it up on this channel, so I appreciate you guys. I don't know if Nick Gill went into the cave, the Bear Cave. I don't know if you guys were in hibernation or what happened, but shout out to the Bears fans out there, and thank you to MA Football Guy who says, just subscribe today. Thank you, man. Thank you so much. We have a ton of Patriots content, of course, as I am a Patriots fan, but also during the year, every week, live reactions during the game, so you're probably going to love that. Where is Brandon Cooks going? I don't know if you just said that because, but where's Brandon Cooks going? He'll get traded probably. I think the problem right now with Brandon Cooks is the contract is pretty extensive. So when you look at the Brandon Cooks contract, just looking it up, I know that he's making like 16 to 18 million over the next 2 years, which isn't like crazy money. I don't think it's not fair for what Brandon Cooks is. He's not even 30 yet, believe it or not. He's been in the NFL for 9 years. But yeah, he's making 18 million in base salary this year. He has a total cap hit of 26 million. Next year, a base salary of 13 million. So he's more affordable in 2024, but he could be a target for New England, given his connection to Bill O'Brien, and obviously he's played for New England before. But I could see that as a target for Dallas. I could see, it depends though with his salary cap. So that's why I kind of feel like he might be too expensive for a team like Kansas City. Because I don't know how much money they have left, especially after they've signed a couple players today. So they're going to have to, whichever team trades for him, one, I don't think it's going to be much in draft capital. It's probably going to be like a 5th round pick, to be honest with you, due to the contract. But that's good, right? I'd rather have Brandon Cooks for a 5th than like Jerry Jeudy for a 2nd, personally. But then you've got, I don't know, you got to work out the money. So you got to probably restructure the money and fit it within your cap. So some other maybe under the radar locations, thinking division by division here. I don't think he'll be going to the NFC West. NFC South, I don't think the Saints reunion is probably on the table, given that they're bringing Michael Thomas back and they're already in cap hell as it is. So then you've got Atlanta, who probably not. They don't throw the ball enough, and they're also not a contender to take on that contract. Tampa Bay, no. So no to the NFC South. After that, you got the NFC North. Green Bay would be interesting. I think Green Bay would make a lot of sense as a complement to Christian Watson. He could also teach Christian Watson a thing or two, I would think, as a deep threat, as Brandon Cooks has been throughout his career. And I would say if Aaron Rodgers is gone, you could use a receiver to help Jordan Love. So that would make sense. Minnesota as a number 2 option to Justin Jefferson, take the pressure off of Justin Jefferson. Again, Brandon Cooks still has that blazing speed, so whenever you bring in a guy like that, defenses are going to pay attention to him. Justin Jefferson's going to have more room to operate underneath, so that would make sense to me. The Lions, probably not. Jamison Williams is going to be there, and he's a similar type of player. And then you also got Chicago, who's already kind of went with DJ Moore. So probably not Chicago. Then you got the NFC East. The Eagles, no, they don't have enough money. They have receivers. Dallas is the one that I already brought up. Would make sense as a complement to CeeDee Lamb. I especially love it in Dallas because Dallas needs a guy that can get vertical, and Brandon Cooks can do that. He's kind of known for that. Amari Cooper, them moving on from him hurt that facet of their offense. It allowed defenses to kind of collapse underneath on CeeDee Lamb and Dalton Schultz. Schultz will be gone, so that opens up the possibility for a new weapon. Michael Gallup didn't provide that spark last year. Maybe he can this year, back from injury, but I don't know. I think they could use that speed down the field for Dallas. So Dallas, I would look out for them. And then who else? The Giants, probably not, given they've already made a big financial move for Darren Waller, and they just signed Paris Campbell. And Washington, no. So that's the entire NFC right there. And then you got AFC. Chiefs are a possibility. It would make sense from a depth chart standpoint. He'd be the best receiver on the team. But I don't know if Brandon Cooks necessarily could fit in financially. The Chargers, I'd love the fit, but I don't think financially it works. The Raiders, probably not. I think they're set at receiver. And then you've got the Broncos, who that one does make sense if they move on from Courtland Sutton, because he could take his spot and financially they can make it work. They've got enough cap, and Sean Payton drafted him, so that makes sense. Russell Wilson does need a deep threat, and Brandon Cooks is a lot like Tyler Lockett, so that actually makes a lot more sense than I think people would realize. NFC or AFC South, Titans, I don't think so. They need a receiver, but I don't think they have enough cap space unless Kevin Byard ends up leaving somehow, which, by the way, if Kevin Byard ends up leaving, Kevin Byard, Patriots, come on, make it work. Replace Devin McCourty. Love Kevin Byard. Houston Texans, he's already there, so no. And then you've got, who else? The Colts. Nah, they're just not willing to make a move like that. And it's in the division. Jacksonville, no, they paid for Calvin Ridley. After that, you've got the AFC North. Bengals, obviously not. Browns, no, probably not. Given that they put money into Amari Cooper, and Donovan Peoples-Jones is kind of a similar player to Cooks is better, but they play a similar role, so I don't see that happening. And then Steelers would be interesting to me. I think they do need a receiver to me. Like, they need speed. Deontay Johnson's kind of the underneath guy, and Pickett is a big jump ball guy, but they don't have a lot of speed there. Maybe they go to the draft. And then AFC East, New England, of course. And then you've got the Jets, who maybe another move if they want to. I just don't know how much cap they're going to have left with Rodgers. So I don't think that's probably workable. But if they're in the OBJ market, you would think they'd also be in the Cooks market. I think OBJ will be more affordable, though, which is why I also like him more for New England. And then the Buffalo Bills, that would be like the perfect fit. But I don't think they have the money. So I don't know. Unless they move money into the future, they restructure a bunch of contracts, then maybe they can make that work. But they do need a receiver, and Cooks would be perfect for Josh Allen and take some pressure off Stephon Diggs. So that would be a great fit. But as a Patriots fan, I hope not. Because I don't like cheering against Brandon Cooks, because I like Brandon Cooks. So those are all the teams, I think. Miami, obviously not. So let's get to the next signing, guys. Thank you so much for joining the chat. Gronk, spike the like button. Subscribe if you haven't. Let's go. Who's up next? We got Dean Lowry, big defensive lineman. Yes, I agree. I would love to have Brandon Cooks back. I do think that he makes a lot of sense. I just think he might be a tad expensive from a money standpoint. So I think they would have to work that out somehow. Maybe Houston would be willing, if they gave them a better pick, say they gave them a third for Cooks, and maybe Houston would be willing to keep more of the money, because that's also possible, right? So let's take a look at the PFF grade here for Dean Lowry. Just taking a look here. Okay. The Minnesota Vikings are adding another interior defensive lineman to help Brian Flores front seven. They've made some moves already. Surprisingly, they didn't retain Dalvin Tomlinson. Dean Lowry is going to help them replace that big body on the interior. And I do think he gives them a little bit more of a crafty pass rusher in comparison to somebody like Harrison Phillips, who's already on that depth chart and perhaps a starter for the Vikings. I think Dean Lowry's a better player than Harrison Phillips. He's a more well-rounded player, playing for the Green Bay Packers in a somewhat similar front. So there will be some transferable skills and foundation for Lowry to build on in Flores' defense. Lowry's been a solid starter for the Packers. He's been a nice complement to Kenny Clark and at times underrated for the Green Bay Packers. Throughout his career, from 2016 on, he's graded as a pretty average player according to Pro Football Focus. His second year, he graded 57th out of 124, so a bit above average there. Then in 2018, he had a better season, 40th out of 112. And then since then, 2021 was a really good year for him. His best year of his career, ranking 33rd out of 108. And 2022, 71st out of 127. So it was a bit of a weaker year last year according to PFF. But that's just one metric. Let's take a look at his statistics. 43 tackles last year was his second best of his career. Only had half a sack last year in 15 games. But I do believe he played less snaps off the top of my head, just given that they had Jaron Reed and a couple other players in there, some more depth in Green Bay than they typically do have on that interior defensive line. And that was the case. So he played 53% of the snaps last year in comparison to 63% in 2021. His most snaps he's ever played is 697, 66% in 2018. So played a lot of snaps in his career, starting role for the Packers for most of his career, basically from 2017 on. So he can come in there, and 5 sacks last year in 2021. So there is perhaps some untapped potential there with Dean Lowry in terms of the player that he was last year. I definitely think when you look at Minnesota's depth chart, the Vikings depth chart, he, to me, just going off their depth chart, I feel like he's the second best player right now on your interior defensive line. Now, I don't think that's ideal. I think you would prefer him as like a third guy, but I mean, second, if he's second best, you can get away with it. But you got Harrison Phillips there, you've got Dean Lowry, you don't have much. I mean, they did add Marcus Davenport, love that add to the edge position, and Danielle Hunter will be there. It's a lot unknown about what Zadarius Smith is going to be. Is he going to be there or not for this team? He wants to maybe get cut, so to try to find a new home, so you can't really rely on him. But he does seem to fit the body type of what Brian Flores is looking for from this position. He is 6'6", 296 pounds as an interior defensive lineman, so he has that length and the size to get it done. Tonga is an interesting player that's up and coming for you guys, but he only played 300 snaps last year, so how much are they going to ask out of him to elevate his role? You guys let me know, but maybe he's like the big nose tackle in that defense, taking over for Dalvin Tomlinson. So it's an intriguing ad. It makes a lot of sense from both a financial standpoint and from a scheme standpoint, as it's only 2 years, $8.5 million, 15 and a half sacks in his career, 80 games started since 2017. He's a solid professional football player on the interior defensive line. Don't expect anything great, but I will say that he provides a bit of balance in the run and pass game for the Minnesota Vikings, stealing a player from your rival, the Green Bay Packers. Dean Lowry to the Vikings. Okay, so that's the last of like the individual signings from these teams. We're going to get to some teams now. So we're going to start with, let's start with the Seahawks. Unfortunately, Tessa Beanie Head is not here right now. My girl Jennifer is not here either. If you are, please let me know. What's up, Caesar? How you doing, bro? Caesar says, if we did get OBJ instead, I wouldn't mind either, as long as his ACL What are you saying for real to? Like you could get Cooks? Is that what you're saying? Nick Scott signed with the Bengals, says Singh. Yes, he did. I actually talked about that yesterday because it was reported that he already signed there, but it was like misinformation. So I already talked about that yesterday if you want to hear about Nick Scott to the Bengals. Safety, starter for the Rams last year. Only played really 1 year as a starter. Free safety type to Cincinnati. Partly replacing Jesse Bates, perhaps, for that defense. JC says Jerry Jeudy is becoming more and more going to take place for the Patriots. Why do you say that? I'm intrigued to hear. I haven't really seen any rumors as of late. JC says Dallas is about to get D-Hop. Okay, I haven't seen anything there, but let me know. I've seen D-Hop following people on social media. He followed Dak, he followed Mac, he even followed Mac Wilson from the Patriots. So I definitely think the D-Hop thing is up to the compensation that teams want to give the Cardinals. I think that's really what it comes down to. So whichever team wants to give him that, because he doesn't have a no trade clause any longer because he did have the PED suspension. So given that he had the suspension, it kind of really doesn't allow him to pick where he wants to go, honestly. So yeah. He'd have great chemistry with Mac. Who are you talking about? Which receiver? We're talking about OBJ. We're talking about D-Hop. We're talking about Brandon Cooks. So let me know which guy you're talking about. Or Jerry Jeudy. You're talking about Jerry Jeudy. That would make most sense, obviously coming from Alabama. Now, the thing is with Jerry Jeudy, I think that might be a little bit overblown. Obviously, Mac threw to Jerry Jeudy in practice and a couple games, but he wasn't the primary starter when Jerry Jeudy was there. It was actually Tua. So Jerry Judy's more of Tua's guy. So, you know, Devontae Smith is really Mac's guy. So I don't know. He would have better inherent chemistry and familiarity than any other receiver that we could get. But does that make him that much more valuable of a get than somebody else? Like, this isn't a Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase thing. If we were to trade for Devontae Smith, I'd be like, oh, okay. Yeah, like that might be a Jamar Chase, Joe Burrow situation because of what they did in college, right? Devontae Smith won the Heisman, right? So that makes sense. Let's get to Seattle. Jennifer's now here. She says, hello, Mitch. Are you Irish? I am not Irish. But am I lucky? That is the question. Let's talk about the Seattle Seahawks. Let's pull up their depth chart real quick. Yeah, they built up some chemistry, guys. I wouldn't go crazy about it, though. I think, like, it's an added bonus. I don't think it's a reason you trade for him, but it's a added bonus. That's what I would say. Seattle. Okay. Who was the other guy? Oh, Devin Bush, right. The Seattle Seahawks have added 2 pieces to the defense. One big one and one big name. Let's begin with Devin Bush. Linebacker, former first-round pick out of Michigan of the Pittsburgh Steelers, has struggled as of late, and I'm sure you've heard about that. Devin Bush has not been a very effective NFL player over the last, I would call it, 2 seasons in the NFL. Remember when he was drafted, it was like, oh, who's that number 1 linebacker? It was Devin White, and then it was Devin Bush. It was the Devins. Devin White went first to Tampa Bay. Devin Bush went to Pittsburgh. Devin Bush was actually a pretty darn good player in his first season or so. And then he suffered an injury to his knee, I believe. And that has really set him back in terms of what his great skills were. The reason he was a first-round pick in the NFL. Devin Bush last year graded as the 54th best linebacker in the NFL. I think that's better than Steelers fans would tell you overall. But you're looking at his career, he had a pretty decent season as a rookie in 2019, grading as the 35th best player out of 90 in the NFL at linebacker. But the number one thing he's really struggled with is the run game. He's struggled to consistently tackle. He's struggled with getting off of blocks. He's struggled with kind of, seeing through linemen, seeing through the trash, right? And being able to get swift through there and make the stop and make the tackle. So Devin Bush had some struggles. But the one big thing I want to say about this move is it's a 1-year deal on a former first-round pick that was a high first-round pick. He's had more time to come off of injury and come back from injury. And he hasn't missed any time as of late. He played all 17 games last year. He played 14 games the year before that. He did have 151 tackles in the last 2 years. And now that maybe more time to recover, more time to build his body, build his strength in his knee, he is a smaller guy, 5'11", 234, which is why his speed has been so important to him and his lateral ability has been so important to him. This kind of reminds me of a guy like Jalen Smith. Jalen Smith went to Dallas, was a really awesome linebacker once he could come back from his knee. And then he hurt it again. And he was just never the same player, and he hasn't been the same player in the NFL. Played for the Giants last year. Hasn't been the same player. Devin Bush could be that, but he's only 24. So he has a lot of time. He's still young. He could recover. And he's playing in a totally different system. Totally different, right? The Steelers run, a lot of, you would say that, yes, Seattle is kind of moving into more of like a 3-4 style defense, right? But Seattle still likes their linebackers to be fast. They still like their linebackers on the smaller side. Pittsburgh typically likes thumpers, typically likes bigger linebackers. So different schemes. So you would hope that in Seattle, with what he's asked to do, he can succeed in that scheme. And again, only 24 on a 1-year deal. So Devin Bush, I'm a little bit more, it's worth it. It's a low risk signing with high reward. So I always like those type of signings with former high draft picks. The other signing is a guy that I really like, Julian Love from the New York Giants. Julian Love is a captain. Julian Love is a rangy free safety, converted from the cornerback position to play free safety, has played nickel with the Seattle Seahawks, or might play nickel for the Seattle Seahawks, but played some nickel for the New York Giants. But mostly free safety as of late for Don Martindale's defense. And interesting signing because I didn't see the fit due to the fact that he'd never played in that system. But when you look at Julian Love, he's kind of a similar body to, like off the top of my head, Earl Thomas. He's 5'11", 195. I'm going to just for the giggles, I'm going to look up Earl Thomas's size. Earl Thomas was 5'10", 202. So Earl Thomas was a little bit stockier, a little bit heavier. But Julian Love, 5'11", an inch taller, 7 pounds lighter. So similar build as a free safety, which I think is interesting, right? He's a good kind of middle of the field solo free safety. 16 games started last year, 2 interceptions, 1 forced fumble, 124 tackles. Active. Strong tackler in space, active tackler. Played 95% of the snaps last year, which was a huge up in percentage from 52% last year when he only started 5 games. But New York was kind of using him before in like a hybrid free safety nickel role because they had Logan Ryan there. So Logan Ryan kind of and him split time at both positions. Julian Love last year graded as the, let's just check. I know that he played well for the Giants because the Giants really only had Adoree Jackson, Julian Love, and Xavier McKinney, and a lot of pressure was on those 3 guys. So let's see if PFF agrees. 44th overall in the NFL, so pretty well on 1,100 snaps. Previous seasons, not great in 2021 or 2020, where I want to say he played more in the nickel than he did. last year where he played 578 snaps at free safety, 170 in the slot, and 296 in the box. So he played a little bit everywhere, but mostly free safety. And I think that's where he's going to play for Seattle. So what did Seattle get here? They got a rangy free safety who can play some man coverage as a converted corner, right? He's got good quickness, can match some slot receivers, can play a little bit of nickel. It's not his preferred position, but he can play it every once in a while, especially in dime personnel. Then you also have a guy that's a leader, a captain, a hard worker. I'm shocked that the Giants didn't re-sign him, honestly. Shocked. I thought he would go back to the Giants because now when you look at that secondary, it's pretty bare. Outside of Xavier McKinney and Adoree Jackson, they don't have a lot that I would say is NFL starting caliber, okay? So I really like this. Now, the question I have about this move for the Seattle Seahawks is, where do you play all these guys? Because Quandre Diggs is a really good free safety. Getting a little bit older, but he's a really good free safety. You got Jamal Adams, who's coming back from injury. Was playing great early last year before he got hurt in that, I think, opener. And then it seemed like they finally found a formula for him to really have success in that new defense. And what is he going to do now? Like, is he going to play more linebacker now? Because you do have a weakness at linebacker. You don't have Bobby Wagner anymore. You didn't last year. And Jordan Brooks is coming back from an injury. Devin Bush, is he more of a depth signing? Does Jamal Adams play more in the box as a linebacker or like a strong, like near the line of scrimmage type player? That's where he's at his best. And then you've got Ryan Neal. And I think a lot of Seahawks fans overlook Ryan Neal. Ryan Neal is a good player. He played 772 snaps in place of Jamal Adams as that box player last year, had an excellent elite coverage grade with 84.4 last year for Seattle, according to Pro Football Focus. And he graded as the fourth best safety in the NFL, 82 overall grade, 72.9 run defense grade. So he's a good strong safety type. He's a good box linebacker type, just like Jamal Adams. So maybe is Julian Love and Quandre Diggs the pure safety types? Is Julian Love a hybrid player? Is Quandre the middle of the field safety? Do Adams and Neal play at linebacker, like on sub packages? I think there's a lot of hybrid nature to this defense coming up, and I'm really intrigued to see what they do there. I think that could really upgrade their defense on pure passing downs if they're not putting as much stress on Jordan Brooks and their linebackers to really cover in space, and that could help them against teams like the 49ers who run a bunch of crossing routes and stuff, because you need the speed to be able to catch up to that and the recognition to be able to see what's going on around you. So, and linebackers, it's tough because they're not as used to being in space and coverage and moving like that. So I do like this move a lot. Julian Love's a good player, and I think he's only getting better. And for age reference, he is 24. So they signed two 24-year-olds. I didn't even think he was that young, but that's crazy. So two 24-year-olds for the Seahawks, a team that I think is going to shock the NFC. I think they're going to be good. I think they're going to make the playoffs. I think they're going to be a real competitive NFC team this year. So that's Julian Love and Devin Bush to the Seattle Seahawks. Okay. Now, before we get to the New England Patriots, let's check if there's any questions. We got to get to the Kansas City Chiefs. I know. We got to talk about the burning down of the kingdom. Before we talk about the real dynasty, the New England Patriots. But we'll get to them in a second here. What's up with JC? He says he wouldn't mind OBJ in Kansas City. He says, we got 4 more bowls to get to tie to the Patriots. Yes, JC, I'm bugging you, man. Nick Scott to the Bengals. Yeah, I'm talking about the Chiefs. Hold on. Nick Scott to the Bengals, says Michael. Seahawks got Draymond Jones. I talked about that, bro. Check back to whatever day he signed is the day that I talked about it. Tori, what's going on, man? How you been? Thanks for joining the chat, man. Ashton, how you doing, brother? I hope our Pat signed Taylor Rapp. Needs safety and corner help with Mills gone. It does make a lot of sense now that Nick Scott is signed with Cincinnati and that we released Jalen Mills. See, this is the thing, Patriots fans, real quick. I thought that Taylor Rapp would have been redundant with Jalen Mills. So now that they've released Jalen Mills, who is kind of like that oddball, right? Jalen Mills was kind of the guy that didn't really have a spot. Was he going to play perimeter corner? Sure, he's fine there, but to me, Jalen Mills was never a man coverage corner. He's not great in man coverage, so he doesn't really fit particularly what New England wants to do at their core, right? He's not a great man coverage guy. He's good in zone. He actually succeeded as a number 2 corner opposite J.C. Jackson in zone coverage. Were they going to move him to safety? Because I remember and recall in Philadelphia, he was better in the box as a safety than he was as a free safety, right? So he kind of became redundant there. Even though I love Jalen Mills as a personality, I think he's a great teammate. I would love to have him on another team as a strong safety. If I was like the Raiders, I would look at him, a team like that, right? But I feel like Jalen Mills, it's tough to see him go, but like Taylor Rapp was going to be redundant. Like a lot of people were like, or Jalen Mills, either way, because Taylor Rapp, like a lot of people would say, oh, he'll play free safety, but like, sure, then where does Jalen Mills play? And you're paying him this money to not play. So I just feel like our safety depth was already good. You know, I think a lot of fans are like, we got to sign a free safety. We got to sign a free safety. And a lot of people are saying that. And to me, it's like, well, I get it, but like, okay, so we got Kyle Duggar, who to me is one of the best safeties in the NFL. We've got Adrian Phillips, who at times is awesome and other times is just really solid. And then we've got Jabril Peppers, who played really well for us in a niche role. But as a third safety, he's a good player. And then we've also got, right, Jack Jones at corner, who I think is going to be a very good player, and Marcus Jones and Jonathan Jones. So those are our starters. So, like, where are these guys going? Where are these guys fitting? So now that Taylor Rapp might be the signing, I would love Taylor Rapp looking deeper into him. Taylor Rapp, I was impressed by what I saw with the Rams. He's a really smart player. I think he could play a strong safety role. I saw a lot of snaps of him playing like near the line of scrimmage at linebacker, even making interceptions and stuff like that. Making plays at the line of scrimmage as a tackler. I think he's a very solid tackler. And he can also play deep down the field. But he's another guy to me that he would be like an upgrade to Jalen Mills, but a different spot. Like he's more of a pure safety. But he's a lot like Adrian Phillips. I don't think he has the physicality to play a linebacker like a sub linebacker like Adrian Phillips has. But I think he has more like range than Adrian Phillips. And just diving a little bit into Taylor Rapp for the Pats fans out there, like PFF stuff here. He graded really well last year. He graded as the 13th best safety in the NFL on 976 snaps. He had an 82.3 run defense grade, which speaks to his tackling ability of what I was talking about. 76.2 overall grade, 72.9 coverage grade, really no weaknesses across the board. And he's ascended every year. And then on top of that, he did play most of his snaps as free safety, 524. But he's played everywhere. He's played nickel, he's played box. So he's a versatile player. And he's also young. I think he's like 25? 25. So yeah. Taylor Rapp is a guy that I would really like on the Patriots. When we had Mills, I didn't think we needed a safety. That's what I'm saying. I thought we just had crazy safety depth last year. And with Jalen Mills being a corner before, I thought he could convert to safety. But now that he's gone, I do think that we could use a safety, specifically a free safety, like Taylor Rapp. So that is my thoughts there. Let's talk about the Chiefs. Okay. Lamar Jackson signed his tag. What are you talking about? No, I didn't see that. I mean, he is on that tag, though. Like, basically, I think it's something where he's placed with the tag. I don't think you really sign it. I think it's something that you get it. I'm just checking something real quick. Okay. So, who are we going to discuss? The Chiefs. So let's pull up Mike Edwards and Drew Tranquil. All right. What's their contracts? 1 year up to $5 million. 1 year worth $3 million. Up to $5 million. Okay. Can you guys hear my dogs barking? Okay. The Kansas City Chiefs are adding reinforcements to their defense. The Super Bowl champs have added a linebacker and a safety. 2 players that I'm familiar with and 2 players that I do like. Beginning with Mike Edwards of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who started in that Super Bowl versus the Chiefs in their win over Kansas City. And Patrick Mahomes. Mike Edwards, 1 year, $3 million, worth up to $5 million. And what I believe he will be is a replacement to Juan Thornhill, primarily as the team's third safety. I see him as a good third safety. Mike Edwards is a player that is instinctive. He is smart. He is a bit of a ball hawk. He's had a lot of interceptions in his career. And as a Pats fan, who's also a huge Brady fan, I've seen a lot of Mike Edwards. Because Mike Edwards was on that team from 2020 through 2022 with Tampa Bay. He is 26 years old. He is turning 27 in May. He's 5'11", 205. He is to me, a free safety. But Tampa Bay this season tried to make him more of a box player and nickel player. And I think they forced him into a lot of uncomfortable scenarios where ultimately he did not play as well as he typically does. I think at times he was a little bit lost. He took risks he probably shouldn't have. And I think it was a lack of experience at that position. To me, he is a Juan Thornhill 3 safety formation replacement as a deep single safety. That's what Thornhill did. Play deep, okay? When it's, especially on passing downs to match up with 3-4 receiver sets in the shotgun, Mike Edwards will be in the middle of the field and he'll be ball hawking. That's what he does best. Now, can he play in the box a little bit? Can he play on coverage snaps? Yes, but Mike Edwards to me is not a guy that you want to really have in man coverage a lot. He's not a super athlete. He's not great moving sideways, horizontal. He's a guy that's you want looking at the football. You want looking at the football. You want tracking the football, and you want him to be able to read and react to the football. And that's what he's good at. To me, as a Pats fan, one player comp I saw to him throughout his career is Daron Harmon. Right? He's a guy that when forced to play more snaps, he can be maybe a little bit exposed out of his element. But as a third safety, a complement to 2 starters, he is very good. Like he's great in that niche role of what he's really good at. He had 2 interceptions last year, 1 pick 6, 2 pick 6s the year before. So he is a guy that picks the ball off and he can create a big play from it and go to the house. He had 3 interceptions the year before that and 2 the year before that. So he is a guy that picks the ball off a couple times every season, and he makes big plays. Last year, he had the most tackles of his career. It's been reported by Ian Rappaport that he had a career season. He did in terms of snaps played, time played, games started, tackles, right, volume. But in terms of his actual quality of play, he played much better in 2020 and 2021. In 2020, he was a player where their defense was so stacked, if you recall, their Super Bowl winning year, and he didn't play as much as he probably should have, but it was more because of the competition. And then in 2021, he played a little bit more, and he played well. And then in 2022, he played a little bit more, and he played not that well. So what I would expect is he replaces Thornhill in that role, but he plays more as a complement. He doesn't play every snap. Okay? And that would basically be what his contract suggests. So given the role and the importance of it in this defense for the Chiefs with Spags, and given that Mike Edwards is coming from a defense that likes to be aggressive in Tampa Bay, likes to blitz, and Spagnuolo also at times likes to blitz and be aggressive. There is some carryover in terms of philosophy and scheme from Bowles to Spagnuolo. So there is some carryover there. So I like this fit. It made sense to me as soon as I saw it, and I said, you know what? That makes a lot of sense. I see it. Mike Edwards is going to fit right in to Kansas City. And honestly, I think he's going to play better than he did last year, because I think Spagnuolo is going to have a better idea of what to do with him and what not to do with him, given, what he did well in Tampa Bay and what he didn't do well. And I think this is one of the cases of a smart front office seeing a player that might be a bit of a value, and like the Patriots have for so many years, kind of taken a player and said, okay, you're not going to do that anymore. You're going to do this. This is what you're good at. You're going to do that. And that's the type of player Mike Edwards is. There's a lot of these type of players in the NFL, but smart front offices and smart coaching staffs can actually identify these things and put them into places to succeed. So I think your safety rotation is built pretty good here with Brian Cook, Justin Reed, right? Brian Cook is the box guy. Then you've got Justin Reed as the kind of hybrid Tyrann Mathieu. And then you've got Mike Edwards as the Juan Thornhill replacement. He's not as good as Thornhill, obviously, due to the contract, but he's a pretty nice budget replacement. Now you can spend money potentially on your defensive line or receiver or whatever. So I like the addition here for the Chiefs. Then you've got Drew Tranquil. Now, Drew Tranquil, for whatever reason, I'm having some issues pronouncing his name. Tranquil was one of my favorite linebackers on the market. I thought he would go a little bit cheaper than most of the other linebackers, mostly due to the fact that he's had a lot of injuries. He's struggled to stay healthy. He's 27 years old. He's 6'2", 234. He's a little bit on the smaller end for linebackers, but he's not undersized, I would say. But this last year was the only year where he played like 16, 17 games. But when he's played in his career, he's played really well for the Chargers. Now, I do question the fit a little bit. Like, how well does he fit with the Chiefs? Usually with the Chargers, they like the undersized guys who aren't like going to be super active in the running game. They're guys that can move in space and play the passing game. And that's what Tranquil's really good at. Tranquil's a really good cover linebacker. He's really good in space, and he's kind of instinctual in coverage. Like, he just has a savvy to it. Like, he understands it. So Tranquil's pretty good in coverage, moves really well, smart player, playmaker. Last year, 1 interception, 4 passes defense, 1 forced fumble, 5 sacks, was active as a blitzer, 146 tackles, just racked it up. 10 tackles for loss, 8 quarterback hits, 76 tackles the year before that, 1.5 sacks. So Tranquil, his numbers would actually suggest he's a better run defender than I would think off the surface. But, I always kind of saw him as like that athlete that's good in coverage. But all around, he's a pretty solid linebacker, honestly. So he's somebody that I just didn't really understand the signing when I saw it, because I already think you guys got good linebackers. So I was a little bit taken back by it. I'm not going to lie. I was a little bit kind of confused by the signing, because you do have Willie Gay and you do have Nick Bolton, who are 2 good linebackers. Like, Nick Bolton, very solid. Willie Gay, more of that kind of coverage to Nick Bolton. And then Leo Chanel, I like Leo Chanel. I really like Leo Chanel. Now, maybe the team doesn't like him as much as I do, but I really like Leo Chanel, especially as a run defender. Now, maybe they see Drew Tranquil as a different type of player, and maybe, I don't know, maybe they just want depth at that position. Maybe they value that. Maybe they see a steal and an undervalued player. I don't know, really. But I do think that he's better than the contract. 1 year, $5 million. I think that's cheap for a player as good as Drew Tranquil when he plays. So maybe they're just taking a chance on a guy that, hey, if he stays healthy, sure, we'll take him. That's a bonus for us. That's huge. But if he doesn't, oh well, we already got good players here. So it's not a big deal. So Drew Tranquil, somebody I really like as a football player. If he can stay healthy, he's a huge, underrated, under the radar addition. But I would have preferred him to go to a different team just because I feel like he should be a starter in this league. And on Kansas City, it doesn't really make sense for him to play a regular role unless Kansas City all of a sudden decides to go to more base personnel. So, good player, just kind of a weird fit, weird signing. Maybe the Chiefs could have used money elsewhere, right? I don't know. So, Drew Tranquil and Mike Edwards to Kansas City. All right. Now we got the New England Patriots. Patriots are up, baby. No tweets. No tweets, it appears. So let's end on the Patriots. JC says all we need is OBJ for Mahomes. Miss Harley Quinn is in the chat. What's going on, Miss Harley Quinn? Jim Everett says Jimmy G will get play his style. Kyle Shanahan is a QB killer. With McDaniels, Jimmy G will have full control of the offense. I don't know about that, Jim Everett. Kyle Shanahan is a QB maker. I would say that, not a QB killer. Tori says, Mitch, I've been doing great. Thanks for asking. Great, man. Michael's in the chat. What's up? 2 Michaels are in the chat. Okay, let's talk about the Pats. Any Patriots questions about these signings, let me know. I'm just going to pull up their stats. Two signings today. Gotta love it. Gotta love it. Okay. The money is crazy here. I'm actually gonna... All right. The New England Patriots have added another playmaker for Billy O's offense and for Mac Jones to find in the end zone. Why do I say end zone? Because Mike Gesicki lives in the end zone. That's where he lives, and he loves to gritty up a storm once he gets there. Mike Gesicki is going to be a target at the tight end position for Mac Jones. And he's going to help this offense in the middle of the field. And it's going to be a great combo with Hunter Henry to see how they work off of each other. Hunter Henry in line. Hunter Henry in the slot. Mike Gesicki out wide. It's going to be an awesome combo at tight end. Mike Gesicki, what is he as a football player? I am a huge fan of this player. I've wanted him to go to the Patriots. I never thought it was a possibility until I saw him follow the New England Patriots on Twitter, which was funny enough, actually the way we knew he was going to the team yesterday. But I never thought it was a possibility because Mike Gesicki does not block. He's come out and he said, bro, I don't like to block. Like, basically. So, usually tight ends that don't block are not Bill Belichick tight ends. But I'm glad that Bill Belichick has opened his eyes, and Bill O'Brien perhaps has opened Bill's eyes to the fact that a lot of tight ends do not block in this league. Travis Kelce. Mike Gesicki is a really talented receiver. Really talented. Like, I don't want to oversell it, but I also don't want to undersell it. Like, Mike Gesicki, to me, in 2021-2020 range, Last year, he didn't play as much. So if you're looking at his pure statistics, he did not play as much because Mike McDaniel's scheme. Mike McDaniel's scheme at the Y position at tight end, he wants a George Kittle type, who's essentially a Gronk type, right? A super well-rounded player. Honestly, he would prefer a blocker over a receiver, especially when you have Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, right? So Mike Gesicki didn't play as much. He played more of a niche role. He played more of a red zone, third down role, where he'd line up in the slot. And it actually took away from Cedric Wilson signing there because Mike Gesicki, basically Mike McDaniel, they franchised him. And it didn't really make sense because he didn't seem to fit the offense. But he was so talented that they're like, oh, we can't let this guy leave. So basically, they signed Cedric Wilson, and then they figure out, probably once they get there, Mike McDaniel's like, well, this guy's really good, so we've got to play him. So it was kind of like a weird thing with Gesicki and Wilson and the offense in Miami because it didn't seem to fit, but they worked it out somehow. He's just that talented that they put him on the field in certain situations where he was able to still catch 32 passes for 362 yards and still have 5 touchdowns last season. But in 2020 and 2021 is what I'm really getting at here. 53 catches, 703 yards, and 6 touchdowns in 2020. And then 112 targets in 2021, 73 catches, 780 yards, 2 touchdowns. So 2 years, he had 700 plus yards. And in one season, he caught over 70 balls, which only good tight ends catch 70 balls. He's had 3 seasons of 50 plus catches, 1 season of 70 plus catches. And when you watch him play, like, I like Hunter Henry, and Hunter Henry is a more well-rounded player, blocking, receiving. But Mike Gesicki, as an athlete, puts Hunter Henry in the dust. Like, Gesicki's ability to run routes and actually separate at the top of his routes with quickness is impressive for a guy of that size. You've got to understand that Mike Gesicki is 6'6", 247 pounds. This is a big man. He's got super long arms. I believe he measured in his draft class as a 97% athlete. So very rare athlete with the length, the speed. And then when you watch him play, in his routes, he has that shiftiness, that quickness to separate, which is hard for tight ends of that size. Usually, tight ends of that size are resorted to only just jump ball guys, which a lot of Patriots fans, and from what I've heard from the coverage of a lot of people, is that that's basically what he is. I disagree. I think this is a guy that actually gets open on top of making ridiculous catches because he's got huge hands and long arms, and he's basically uncoverable because when you throw him up the ball, he can make the grab wherever he is. Sidelines, inside, whatever, right? So, and this is a question I have about what the Patriots are going to do with their personnel. So with the Patriots maybe still involved with the rumors about dominoes to fall, if Mike Gesicki's a great jump ball contested catch guy, and right now on their depth chart they have Juju, they have Tyquan, both those guys are staying no matter what, Hunter Henry. And then after that, you've got Devontae Parker and Kendrick Bourne. The guy that seems a bit redundant right now is Devontae Parker. Now, Devontae Parker is good. I would like to have him around. I think he still fits a role as the X receiver on this team. But if we're going to make another move for Odell, or for D-Hop, or for even Jerry Jeudy, or for a first-round receiver, does that mean Devontae Parker could be on his way out? Kendrick Bourne could be another guy given the contract, maybe. But do you, because Gesicki is so good at those jump balls, that do you want Devontae Parker and Gesicki in here? Now, what I love about this is Gesicki's cheap. It's a 1-year deal, a max of $9 million, but it's 3.5 guaranteed, 2.4 signing bonus. And what was reported, it was reported differently Two different times. So I heard that it was 4.5. And then it's 1 year 4.5, 2.4 signing bonus. So it was originally discussed as 9 million max value, 3.5 guaranteed. And then it was reiterated and kind of redistributed as 1 year 4.5 million, 2.4 signing. If that's the case, this is an absolute steal and a half. Like, Mike Gesicki was, if you guys can go back before he was a Patriot, whatever, he was like my underrated must-add tight end in free agency because he's undervalued. He's only 27 years old. He's a great receiving tight end. And to me, he's a top 10 option receiving the football in this league at this position. So I love the ad. I think you can tell. And I love it because it's another middle of the field weapon for Mac Jones. Mac Jones is a great middle of the field passer. I always talk about that. With Tom Brady, he was a great quarterback. He could throw it everywhere. He's the best of all time. But where was he at his best? In the middle of the field. When he had Edelman, when he had Welker, when he had Gronk, when he had James White. That's where he wanted to throw the ball. That's where Bill O'Brien wants to focus the offense, the middle of the field. Hunter Henry, Mike Gesicki, you signed Juju, right? So it only makes sense. He's also a massive upgrade to Jonnu Smith. One of the massive things that hurt Jonnu Smith was he also didn't block very well. So they didn't know what to do with him. He wasn't getting open, separating down the field. Mike Gesicki does that. He doesn't make contested catches. Mike Gesicki definitely does that. He's not a red zone weapon. Mike Gesicki does that. He has reliable hands. Mike Gesicki. Jonnu doesn't really block. Mike Gesicki doesn't either, so it doesn't matter, right? Hunter Henry can do most of the blocking. That's fine. And then you've also got a guy that you can split out wide who's still dangerous. He's still a threat to corners because he's 6'6" and he can still run, right? So Jonnu was just a weird fit because really what he is a yards after catch player. He's just a guy that you throw screens and you hand the ball off and you get him open and then he can do the rest. But you got to get him open. Gesicki gets open. And Gesicki doesn't have to be open to catch the ball. So he's way better than Jonnu Smith. And way cheaper. The other move that the Patriots made, I don't think I missed anything there. If you guys have any questions about Mike Gesicki, let me know. But I love the move. Love the fit with Mac. Mac's had a good rapport with these guys that he can throw the ball up to. But I think he's been super undervalued. And he's also, last thing, played inside a Patriot offense already in his career where he's had a ton of success. His most successful seasons were in a Patriot offense under Chad O'Shea. Okay? So that's the last thing. Now, the other move that the Patriots made was CJ Board. CJ Board, they paid 2 years, a max value of $6.7 million. Given how good this guy is at his niche, there's probably some incentives to make the Pro Bowl or things of that nature. Tackles. CJ Board is one of the best special teams players in the NFL. The Patriots last year on special teams were not very good. And when Bill Belichick goes out of his way to go on a soliloquy or a paragraph quote about a special teams player, you know he's pretty good because Bill Belichick loves him some special teams. Okay? He is not going to play linebacker. He is strictly a special teamer. Think of Matthew Slater. Okay? That is what this guy is. He's basically a replacement for what we used to have in Justin Bethel, right? This is what he is. A beast of a special teamer. Great in coverage. Great cover guy. And Belichick described it as a guy that's great because of his size and his speed combination that makes him difficult to basically block in open field. And he's a great tackler. So the Lions will miss him in the third phase, and the Patriots will love to have him. And I love that the Patriots are addressing even kind of the niche needs for this team, the special teams, because I think that was something that got overlooked from fans, but we were not good on special teams last year. Nick Folk was good, but otherwise our punting was terrible. And our returning with Marcus was good, but like we could get better. And Board is definitely going to help us in that area, and so is Joe Judge as the coach. So I think that's a great ad, and I think both of these ads are awesome. So I'm looking forward to what the Patriots do the rest of the offseason. I think they've had an awesome offseason. I think a lot of Patriots fans have been frustrated with their, lack of urgency, so to speak. But I think the Patriots are better now than they were at the beginning of free agency. When you really look at our roster, we really have only lost Devin McCourty to retirement, and that's it. We cut Jalen Mills, right? So that was our own personal decision we're going to replace, I would assume. We still got the draft. I think we're still going to hit receiver in free agency again. And our offensive line's got better depth now. I think our defense was already good. Our special teams got better. Our receiver position got better. Our tight end position got better. So I like what they're doing. And I'm looking forward to it, man. So that's today. There wasn't a ton. But that's today, guys. I covered it all. Appreciate everybody being here. Gronk, spike the like button, subscribe. Sing asked, Mitch, did you know that Jake Bailey went to the Dolphins? Yes, I didn't really want to talk about a punter, honestly. But if you want my thoughts, I thought he played like absolute ass last year. He was terrible. Before that, he was a very good punter. He was an all-pro player, but I don't know what happened in the last couple of years. In 2018, 19, 20, he was a good player. 21 and 22, he wasn't. So, I don't know. Maybe he lost it. I don't really know what happened with Jake Bailey. So, what do you think the Pats' next move is? I'm hoping it's their big-time receiver, but it's probably going to be a defender. Maybe Taylor Rapp, maybe Andrew Van Ginkel. I think it's going to be a solid defensive player at some level. I don't know what position, corner, safety, linebacker, but it will be somebody. Ben wants me to rank all the punters. I'm putting Ray Guy first, Shane Leckler second, and Singh third. All right, guys, thank you for watching. It's Mitch. Have fun watching March Madness, and we will be back likely tomorrow to discuss any of the moves that are made on Saturday. Look out for the rest of the videos that I release. Peace.